right, it's 8 o'clock. We want to be respectful of everyone's time, so I will turn this meeting over to our Mayor Pro Tem.
Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday to you all. Thanks so much for being here, and thanks for joining us on Zoom. Before we get to our presentations this morning, I just want to recognize some of our city management that we have in attendance with us today. You'll see our city manager, Mark Israelson, our deputy city manager, Jack Carr, and also our deputy city manager, Sam Grief. We also know that you're going to have some great presentations that you're going to get to hear. And so we know you're probably going to have lots of questions, and we'd love for you to save those till the end of our meeting, and we'll have plenty of time for you to answer those questions at the end. So our first presentation this morning is City Manager Mark Israelson, and he's going to give us an overview of our upcoming 2022 Plano listening tour. So Mark, take it away.
Good morning, everybody. This is a great time to be in Plano. The sun is shining. We're at a Friday. 2022 is starting off with a lot of positivity, and we're seeing some of the COVID numbers move in the right direction. So we are engaging in a citizen listening tour for the city of Plano. For us, this is a really important time for the organization to reconnect with the community in our community building efforts. So for us, we've spent a lot of time thinking about ways we can go about reconnecting and really spending that time to hear from our citizens in a broader perspective. So we've designed a number of opportunities for individuals to come and provide their feedback to the city. So the city council, the city staff, we're really there to listen. We're going to have a professional facilitator come and share some thought-provoking questions with the audience. And it's really going to be an opportunity for the audience to share how the organization is doing, how we're impacting your lives, what you would like to see for the community going into the future. So we've created an online registration system that allows everybody to come and pick a time, a date, a location that works for them to sign up and come and provide some of that feedback. We also have several Zoom options available. We know that some folks feel more comfortable in this environment versus meeting in person. So we have spread out the opportunities throughout the month of February, throughout the city with some of our partners in the community to provide opportunities. So wherever you are and whatever time works for you, hopefully we found at least one opportunity for you to come and participate and give the city feedback. When it's all said and done, and we've had the opportunity to go through the number of these events, we're going to put together a report that we'll bring back to City Council and see if there's things that we need to add, adjust, edit in the way that we're performing as an organization. But the goal is to come back and have a meaningful conversation about how we're doing with the community. And we think it's going to be a fantastic opportunity. We are already having people sign up. So we have a number of people that have signed up for in-person as well as the online event. So we're very excited about this. It kicks off next week. And if you haven't had the chance to sign up, please do so. We have all of that information on our Facebook page, on our Twitter feed, on the city website. Please pass it around to your neighborhoods, to your groups that you're involved with, because we really want to take this opportunity to hear from you. So that's the overview of the listening tour. We're really looking forward to it. And if you have any questions, you're welcome to reach out to Shauna, myself, post any questions in the chat feature, and we'll be happy to get back with you.
Thank you, Mark. And I just want to thank you and I know there's a lot of city staff behind the scenes working hard on getting this set up. And I know that myself and the rest of the council members are really looking forward to this opportunity to really hear from our citizens. So I hope that everyone on this call will take advantage of this opportunity and will really spread the word, because we really do want to hear from you and want to hear from a diverse group of voices in our community, because that helps us to make better decisions for the future. So we hope to hear from many of you. All right, our next speaker is our new fire chief, Chris Bigerstaff. and we're excited to get to hear from you. Take it away, Chris.
All right. Thank you very much for the opportunity to introduce myself and talk a little bit about our department. So my name is Chris Bigerstaff. I've been with our department for 29 years, and kind of put that in perspective, when I came to work here, I was a newlywed, and since that time we had 2 kids, raised them. They're married, they have kids, and we're empty nesters again. So I've been here with the department for quite a while, and I've been I'm a paramedic in the department. Started out as a firefighter riding an ambulance here in the department, moved to a driver of a fire engine, which is a great job. Who wouldn't want to drive through town with the lights on, the sirens, and have all the kids waving at you? It's just a good spot. And then I was a lieutenant on the busiest engine that we have, and moved from there to the captain of our special operations team, which is another great job because you get to do all the fun stuff, swift water and high angle and all that good stuff. And then moved to battalion chief over EMS, and from there went to deputy chief over special operations, and then I was the assistant chief over support services, and then over emergency services, and then the fire chief. So on December 20th, I actually took over as the fire chief whenever Chief Greif was called up to the big leagues, and I was able to take that spot. So, one of the things he had said all along when we hired him, that was he was going to try to have somebody prepared. He didn't say he was going to try to have somebody prepared. He said he would have somebody prepared that could take the job internally. And I was just fortunate to be the one that got that opportunity. So any firefighter likes to tell stories about their career. So I'll just give you kind of some highlights that have happened during the time I was here. In 1995, I was on the second apparatus that arrived at the Whiffletree fire. And I don't know how many of y'all are familiar with that fire, but we had 21 houses on fire at one time. So that was by far the largest incident that I've had fire-wise in my career. It was just it was one of those days where it was very windy, it was dry. We had lots of wood shingle roofs back at that time, and had 21 of them on fire at one time. So I was also on duty the day in 2003 when the space shuttle Columbia had exploded over North Texas. And we, at the same time that happened, we had a large apartment fire on the east side of town, and it came in as some debris from the space shuttle had started the fire. Turned out that wasn't actually true, but we always called that the space shuttle fire. And then in 2021, I was the incident commander for our department during our Winter Storm Uri, or as our department, we called it Operation Snowball, and we made over 3,000 emergency calls that week. And to kind of help put that in perspective, we normally make 80 to 100 emergency calls in a day, and we had some days in there we made over 1,000 calls. So it was we're not necessarily set up to do that long term, but they met the need during that time. So a little bit about our department. We're 388 uniformed personnel, 12 civilians. We're the third largest department in North Texas, behind only Dallas and Fort Worth. Some of the unique things about our department: we are an ISO 1 rated department, and I like the definition that they use for that. It says Class 1 generally represents superior property fire protection. Well, I look at our department that we do provide superior property fire protection, and we were the first department in Texas that was ISO 1 rated. So we have ISO 1 rating. We have our Commission on Fire Accreditation, International, we have that accreditation, and then we also have Commission on Ambulance Accreditation Services. And what's kind of neat about those big three is we were the first one in the country that had all three of those together. There are a few more now, but we're still the largest department that holds all three of those. So some of the good things that are coming up this May, we have I said May, maybe May or June, somewhere in that area, we'll have our a world-class training facility that's going to open during that time. I don't know if any of you have seen it coming up, but it's over there where Robinson dead ends into McDermott over there. And so if you get an opportunity, drive by there and look at that. Some of the things that make it special, though, I've been to a lot of fire training facilities. And ours is going to be different than that because it's really customized to the kind of construction that we have here in Plano or the emergencies that we see here in Plano. So our two-story single family looks like one that you would see here in town. So when we're practicing fighting fires, you're fighting them on the ones like you would see. Apartments are the same way, parking garage. In the parking garage, we also have an area that has collapsed walls in there so that our USAR team can practice on structural collapse. It actually has a moving exterior wall that will help you with practicing for sure. And probably the most impressive thing, if you drive by, you can't miss it, is the high rise there because it does represent a lot of the structures that we have here in town, and has a 6 stories with a basement in there. So coming up late spring, early summer, be looking for opportunity for an open house where you can come out and check it out. We're going to be very proud of it, so we'd like for you to come by and look at it. Our department, just to give you an idea of how many emergency calls we make. Last year we made 33,500 emergency calls, which is significantly higher than in 2019. We in 2020 our numbers were down because people weren't out very much. COVID started, everybody was staying home. A lot of them didn't want to go to the hospital, so our numbers were lower. But since 2019, that was a 20% increase. So we had really a significant increase last year in emergency calls, and a lot of them were as a result of EMS calls. We had a 12% increase there, and then a 14% increase in the number of patients we transported. So we've just seen a pretty significant rise there. Even though those are for us, those are record, kind of shatter our old record right there. We still really try to focus on the small things that help us provide excellent service. And one of them is, and this is a lot of the feedback we get, is we get there quick. If you call us, people tell me all the time, we were still talking to them on the phone. You guys rolled up out front. That's our goal. Our goal is to when somebody calls as an emergency, we get there quick. And when we get there, we want to do good work. That's what the training facility is there for, so we can make sure that our people are ready to go, trained for any kind of emergency call. And then our last one is probably the most important one, is we want to show compassion when we get there. That's really what we do, kind of in a 10-minute nutshell right there. A little bit about me and our department. Thanks for the opportunity.
Thanks so much, Chief. I know everyone on this call is grateful to have you in this new role and to have another great chief following Chief Greif. So we're looking forward to all that you're going to do to serve the city of Plano. So thank you in advance for all of your hard work and all the ways you've served us already. Now we get to hear an update on a topic that I know is of interest to many. I know that because I get lots of emails on this regularly from the citizens. So we're going to hear about homelessness and panhandling from our police chief, Ed Drain, and our neighborhood services director, Lori Schwartz, and our housing and community services manager, Shanette Eden.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I'm going to share my screen. I've got a PowerPoint slide. I am Shanette Eden. It's really great to be up and to be able to present this update to you all. Okay, so homelessness in Plano, for those of you all that have been in Plano a long time, like I have my whole life, you've seen it change a lot. It's gone from none to some more and more, and so I'm going to talk to you about, you get an update about that today. So where are we at? What's the state of homelessness here in Plano today? Well, when you look at our homeless census, our homeless count that we did last year, there were 216 individuals that were homeless. Yes, that was down from 2020, which is a good thing. But where we saw the shift was that we saw an increase in unsheltered homeless from the previous year, and our sheltered homeless coincided and went down. So you see here on the slide, there's 89 that were in shelter at this time. That means either an emergency shelter or that were actually in transitional housing specifically set aside for homeless. The other 127 were outside. And because last year was cold, they actually were not outside. The majority of those, but 2 of them, were actually housed at the Plano Overnight Warming Station. That's the one that the Salvation Army has. So that's where they were at. So when you break down those numbers a little bit more and you want to say, okay, what exactly does Plano's homelessness look like? Well, the majority of our homeless are women and children. Even though I told you that, you know, the 127 were singles that were out and unsheltered, we had 158 of our homeless that were counted that night that were adults, 25 and up, as you can see, and then 39 were children. And then we had a group of young adults. We always have young adults because here in town, what we have are, we have City House, that's an emergency shelter, Hope Store New Beginnings, that's an emergency shelter for domestic, survivors of domestic violence, as well as Texas Muslim Women's Foundation. Those are our emergency shelters, but we have some other organizations in addition to those that are providing some transitional shelter. The other thing we like to do when we are looking at the state of our homeless in our annual point in time count is kind of get a capture of how many of those were veterans. So of those, the 216, 2 of them were veterans, which is a decrease from the year before. We'd like to think that decrease was because our veterans got housed. There's special vouchers that are available to our veterans through our Plano Housing Authority and the Veterans Administration that they can access. So what type of services does the city of Plano itself offer to our homeless residents? We have we do housing assessments. What that is we will go to where the homeless individual is. As you can see on here, we go to Harrington Library. We still are going to the site even though it's under construction. We go, we visit all the places that you see on here. And when we go out, we're not going out just to say hello and get them a count. No, we're going out with our mobile pad that has a homeless management information system on it. What we do is that system allows us to connect our homeless individual with other services that may not be provided here in Plano. So there's not a shelter here in Collin County that's emergency for the general population, which means single adults. Well, this system allows us to connect with the person's name in our homeless management information system and actually see if there is a place available for them in another shelter in a neighboring city. So that is quite helpful to us. We also do street outreach. So what we know here and what we found in our street outreach is not conducted just by neighborhood services staff. It is conducted in partnership with our police department, with our fire. The fire department has community paramedics, and with LifePath. LifePath provides a mental health assistance to us, but we will go out in groups and actually go to where our homeless are at with the idea of trying to assist them in services. Now, services typically aren't going to be received overnight. And there's sometimes that people won't take our services. But what we have found to be true is that the more times we go out, we build a relationship, they then will take us up on the offer for services. When I say services, I mean housing, but not just housing. Because if you put a homeless person in a house, you don't provide them with case management, maybe mental health services, then you've set them up to fail. We try to affect the entire homeless individual and help them become self-sufficient. Because what we know also in last year's count is that 54% of our homeless, and I'll just say even in Collin County, they had jobs. So we're not talking about the majority of them have jobs. We're talking about people that are working poor, working homeless. The other thing we do when we go out is we have homeless care packages that our volunteers here in Plano, when I say volunteers, I mean we have residents. You all are awesome. We have groups in town that we will send emails to. They're on our list. And when our homeless care packages get low, we send them an email, and they drop off exactly what we need. And it's great. So when we say homeless care packages, that includes a hygiene kit. So when you say hygiene, you know, your soap, your water, your toothbrushes, as well as food packages, non-perishables, so that people have something to eat. And we also have our own housing programs for homeless. We have a rapid rehousing program where somebody is literally homeless. We pick them up off the street, provide them with intense case management, and place them in their own apartment with the goal that after a year, they have become their own self-sufficient person that can operate within the city of Plano as any of us do currently. The other program we have is a tenant-based rental assistance program. For that program, you have to be on the verge of being homeless, so maybe you are going to be evicted in a few days, or you are homeless right now. Maybe you're sleeping in your car. You will get assistance here. as long as you are Plano's homeless. So, all right, so what's upcoming for us? We have our annual point in time count. That's going to be on Thursday, February 24th. The major cities in Collin County are all participating. As I'm looking on this slide, I have missed the city of McKinney. My goodness, I'm glad we don't have anyone from McKinney on this call, this Zoom. So McKinney is a very big partner in this as well. We conduct a point in time count annually. It's something that's required by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development because they want us to take account of our homeless every year and then look to see what more services we could attempt to provide, maybe with their funding, or how we can better serve our population to assist them in not becoming homeless. There's a sign-up genius on here. When you all get that email from our Communications Community Outreach Department with the PowerPoint slides, you all can please sign up. We still have spaces available, and we do this in coordination with the Collin County Homeless Coalition as well as Metro Dallas Homeless Alliance. All right, so let's talk about panhandling. If you're wondering why is panhandling getting its own separate side, it's because we know here in Plano that panhandling and homeless they're not always synonymous. So as it says here on the slide, all the panhandlers that you see here in Plano, they're not all homeless. You know, we have a lot that sometimes they're families. Some of them actually do not even live here in Plano. One in particular group that I know I see, and we talked to, we stopped talking to, but pretty much I've said, you know, you all should go back to your city that you live in because we know they don't live here. We know the city they live in. But I want to tell you, even though I say that, panhandling is not illegal. So so our team, we regularly, with the police department, we will offer services and assistance to those that are homeless that are panhandling, because some of them are not homeless, and they will actually tell you they're not homeless if you ask them. So, so what in the world should you do when you're encountering a panhandler? The first thing is I want you to just think about it. Think about the traffic and the public safety issue, or hazard rather, that's caused when you stop your car. Maybe it's a green light and you stop your car to possibly give them money or things like that. And when I say money, I will tell you that anytime I'm speaking to our residents or our volunteer groups about our homeless population, I always tell them money is not the best way to help. So please do not give money. So if you hear me saying, Shanette, I'm telling you, don't stop, don't give them money. What can you do? Please call us. Our number is on here. Call us so that you allow us that are who have a job, you know, police, neighborhood services, we can go out and we can help. We have plenty of services that can help individuals, and we're used to doing this. Then the public safety hazard is created when you stop your car and hand things out of your window. It's kind of prevented. But I also want to tell you, if you have a concern for your safety, always please call 911. And that is the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Shanette. Is Chief or Lori, are you going to add anything in or?
Yes, this is Chief Duran. I just want to say that we work hand in hand with neighborhood services, as Shanette says, not only just dealing with the panhandling problem, but with going out on some of our people that we see frequently in our parks that are homeless. And we realize that a lot of people in our community have concerns about panhandling, but as Shanette says, panhandling in itself is not illegal. What is illegal, though, is for panhandlers to step in the roadway. So we do take enforcement action when that happens. If you see that going on, please call 911, and as we can, we will take enforcement action to try to stop that behavior from happening. But if they're just on the sidewalk or on a median, that is not illegal behavior.
Shanette and Chief, sorry to interject, but I just want to make sure we get one point in very, very clear for our community to hear. Can we say concretely that anybody that is in Plano that is panhandling like that has been offered services from the city, that we have made contact and checked in on them to make sure that if they are in need of services, that we have offered those? Is that correct?
And we may have, new people can come in every day, but for our regulars that we see out here, there is no question that they've been offered services by both probably neighborhood services and police. And in many cases, we work hand in hand, and we're talking to them at the same time. Even when we take enforcement action, we also offer services to them at that time as well.
Thank you. And there was one question that came in that was asking, what if somebody does want to help, if they're part of an organization or if they individually want to help, what they can do to assist?
I'm sure Shanette also has comments on this, but one of the things they can do is encourage their congregation not to give money, as Shanette talked about. Shanette mentioned some transitional housing organizations in our city. All of those organizations take volunteers. They can do that. They also take money, of course. You can also do that. Samaritan Inn was not mentioned, but it's up in McKinney, but it's also a partner with us in our homeless initiatives. And you can also volunteer and donate money to that organization as well. And as Shanette also mentioned, you can help by participating in the count so we have an accurate a number of how many homeless we have in our community. Shanette?
Yes, thank you. So I want to say the first thing, everything you said is great, and he's right. I want to point out also, a lot of times we get inclined to have our groups go out and we're going to feed the homeless. I want to say that I'm going to ask you not to do that. One, because there's a city ordinance that tells you exactly the rules that have to be followed when you are outside with your group feeding the homeless, such as, and I know environmental health and sustainability is not on, this is not their day, but there are rules around providing food and temperature, because what you don't want to do is make sandwiches at your home and then, or in your facility, and then bring them outside and give them to people and they get sick. Or you don't want that to happen. People give them to people and they actually don't need them. So that's that. But you can also call our department. The care packages that I mentioned, we always need those, and they're very specific. So we don't just want you all to, we don't want our residents to just kind of dump off a lot of stuff for us to figure out. But we have actual care packages. They're on our website. I know marketing and communications and community outreach can send that link too. But it tells you exactly what we want you to provide. Even if you say, I don't have money to do a lot of them, we'll take one or two. You drop them off at our office, and I want you to know that we share those care packages with our police department and our fire department, because our first responders a lot of times are the first interaction with our homeless. So if you'll do that, that's great. And then, of course, like the chief said, we've got a number of organizations that are helping homeless that need your help too. So thank you for asking that question.
Thank you, Chief Drain and Shanette, for that presentation. Now we're going to get to hear from Shanette again and Lori as well, and they're going to be joined by Neighborhood Engagement Manager Keisha Siriano to give an overview of the grants program available to residents and neighborhood groups such as the Great Update Rebate, and then the Emergency Housing Assistance and more.
Okay, let me share my screen again. All right, so my colleague, Keisha Siriano, is going to come up. She's going to talk about a lot of the really fun things that we're doing to help our neighborhoods. And I'll start out talking briefly about our emergency housing assistance, our Great Update Rebate program. Those are the two we're going to highlight. And of course, our director, Lori Schwartz, is on the phone, on the Zoom call. I keep saying on the phone. She's on the Zoom call too. But Keisha and I are going to be presenting this morning. So let me get it to the slideshow view. Okay, here we go. So we have an emergency housing assistance program that's provided to us through the use of Treasury funds. We received about 15 million Treasury funds, and we have about 6 million of that left to use to assist our residents that fit the income requirements on your screen with both rent and or mortgage, utility, and utility assistance. The goal of these funds is to help people that have been impacted by COVID. And when I say financially impacted by COVID, I mean either you've seen an increase in your bills due to COVID or a decrease in your income. So maybe it's been a job loss or reduction in hours, or maybe it has been my kids are now at home and I'm having to help them, assist them having their schooling at home due to COVID, which means you couldn't work as much. There are a lot of different reasons why somebody can be financially impacted by COVID-19, and we are here at our city to assist you in that manner. We've got the information. We coordinate with Catholic Charities of Dallas. They run our rental program. That's for rent and utilities, and that's an online application. We also partner with the Assistance Center of Collin County. It's located here in Collin County, and they will help with more hotels, which I actually forgot to mention, hotel, motel, as well as your mortgage and utility payments if you've been affected by COVID-19. I also want to say that for those individuals that are unable to complete an online application, Catholic Charities comes in-house. They come to Plano twice a week here in our Neighborhood Services Department. So it doesn't matter if you are able to get online or if you are not, we are here to assist you. We also have a program that maybe you weren't really affected by COVID-19, meaning recently. That's okay. We can still help you because we have a regular homelessness prevention program that is a rent and mortgage and utility assistance. We can assist you with that if you meet the income guidelines on the screen. That's 80% or below of the area median income. If you meet those guidelines, call the Assistance Center of Collin County, press option 2. You'll get these slides, and they are definitely there to help you. Next, I want to talk about the Great Update Rebate. Man, this program has been around since 2014. It's received a U.S. Conference of Mayors Award, and I still find residents that say, man, we didn't know. So I'm hoping that you hear this morning and you tell all your friends. We have a program that provides up to a $5,000 rebate if you spend at least 10% of the CAD value on your home or $20,000, whichever is lesser. The guidelines around that is that your house has to be 35 years or older. Your CAD value cannot exceed $383,180. The maximum rebate is $5,000. As I said, we'll rebate 25%, on exteriors and then another 10% on interiors. I've got a picture on the screen of a before and after of what somebody did on the inside of the house. I always get the question of, does this program help? Can I see the benefit in my taxes? You know, on the tax roll, has it increased my home value? A lot of times, $20,000 in improvements put into your house don't necessarily increase your footprint enough for it to affect your value. However, what I will tell you is that when we spoke to real estate agents about this program, they all said that it is the resale value. When you do go to sell your home, you are going to get that benefit. You're going to realize that benefit of participating in this program. And not only that, as you can see in this picture, this homeowner actually opened up their house. So sometimes as we age and we get more mature, there are doorways that are maybe too small in our house that need to be opened. So not just for cosmetic reasons, but because you really do need to do it. This program can help. Please reach out to the Neighborhood Services Department, and we are here to assist you in that. I am now going to turn it over to my colleague, Ms. Siriano, Neighborhood Engagement Manager, and let her take over the rest of the slide.
Good morning. I'm here today. I'm going to speak to you about two of our neighborhood grants. One is Neighborhood Vitality and Beautification Grant, and the second one is the Neighborhood Engagement Mini Grant. So the Neighborhood Vitality and Beautification Grant, it's a grant that neighborhoods can apply for to enhance the appearance of their neighborhood. And on the next slide, I'll kind of talk about some of the examples. If you apply, your project should support neighborhood goals, should be accessible and visible by the public, and have an overall community benefit. It's open. This one is open to all neighborhood groups, so both voluntary and mandatory HOAs, as well as neighborhood associations and crime watch groups. We have 2 grant cycles each year. We just wrapped up our spring cycle, taking in the pre-applications. And if you're interested, the next application will be due in the fall cycle, which starts in early July. So just reach out to us if you're interested. We always tell residents, our neighborhood groups, even if it's not the cycle time to be open, please contact us for any questions or any project ideas that you may have to see if they may qualify or what may need to be tweaked. We have different amounts that we award. So for small grants up to $2,000, Our larger grants are up to $10,000, between $2,000 and $10,000. And as you see here, the matching requirement is different. We trying to encourage more of our voluntary groups to participate, and we know they don't have mandatory dues, so their budget sometimes could be a little bit lower. So we offer a higher match amount from the city to help those neighborhoods. Here's some examples of some projects. A lot of neighborhoods use it for entryway landscaping. Also done some sign toppers and some lighting. So you just do some examples that some of our neighborhoods have used. You could also do some decorative benches in your neighborhoods as well. The next grant I'm going to talk about is our Neighborhood Engagement Mini Grant. And this one is only open to our voluntary neighborhood groups. Again, for the same reason, their budget's a little bit lower. They don't have as much money to be able to engage in, with their neighbors and have different programs and projects. So this is specifically for them. This one does not have a match. It's up to $500, and it can be used for increased resident engagement or connectivity for new ideas that our neighborhoods may want to provide for their neighbors. Next slide talks about some examples. So our neighbors have used it for creating a new website or door hanger. They've used it for signage to create for, to discuss new meetings coming up or new projects. They've done A-frame signs. They've also used it to do during COVID to purchase some large yard games, as well as food pantry or a little library, and welcome baskets. A lot of musical welcome baskets as well. So if you're interested in any of these programs, please reach out to Neighborhood Services. You can always email my team at best@plano.gov. Thank you.
Thank you. That giant chess game looked super fun. That was a fun idea for that neighborhood. All right, well, thank you for all of that great information. And now we get to hear from our Director of Communications and Community Outreach, Shauna Haley, and she is going to lead us in a brief discussion about the future of these meetings.
Yes, good morning, everybody. Thank you again for joining us. We have a huge crowd with us today, and I'm really pleased about that. One thing we think is important is touching base with you from time to time to just make sure that these meetings are still useful and that we are holding them at the right time and in the right format for you all. As you know, during COVID, we switched to virtual for many things. And then at the end of last year, we went back to a hybrid meeting. And, you know, our attendance can be up and down. And so it's good for us to hear, is this the right format? And here today, we have a ton of people virtual. So maybe what we'll do, since we have just a few minutes, if you have thoughts on what you would prefer, is morning better, afternoon better? Are there some considerations that we haven't taken into place, whether you want hybrid, in-person, or virtual? Why don't you just unmute yourself and give us some thoughts?
Anyone? No, I'd vote for hybrid for now.
All right. We know many people are juggling many responsibilities, and so virtual and hybrid give a little more flexibility in those circumstances for sure. Is this still the best time of day? Morning before the day gets away from you, or afternoon when you can just kind of call it quits?
Friday morning is great.
Friday morning.
I think the time's good.
All right.
I vote also. I think having a hybrid is a great option, at least right now.
All right.
I vote for hybrid AM also.
All right. Any other thoughts? It sounds like what we did last month, although we clearly had, or I guess it should say it was November-ish, we clearly had technical challenges, which we think we've solved for the hybrid portion, so that it's a more meaningful experience, that you would be willing to come back. Some of you prefer being in person, some of you prefer online. other thoughts? I don't want to cut into our Q&A time for our speakers, but I did want to make sure that we're responsive to what you need. We'll be wherever and however is best for you all.
I have one question for you. I noticed on the invite it said like you can, invite one other person. Is that you have a problem if we invited, in our association, sometimes I have multiple people that want to attend, especially if it's on Zoom, or do you want to limit that to just 2 people from each group?
You know what? I think we're flexible on that. Our history has been, we're in person and we're trying to, deal with room capacity. So we had limited it at that time to the president or the designee. Well, that doesn't apply as much when you're talking about a Zoom, a Zoom component. We don't really have a capacity issue. I think we hit it, when we get to hundreds and hundreds of people, but that's clearly not going to happen here. So I think we're open to that, particularly if we're talking about maybe one person in person and then a set number. We just want to make sure that it still is a small enough group that we have meaningful discussion. When you get to too many people, it can be challenging for everybody to make their voice heard. Any other questions or thoughts? All right, Mayor Pro Tem, I'll hand it back to you.
Thank you, Sean, and thank you everybody for sharing your thoughts on the direction of the meeting. Now we're going to open up the rest of the meeting to answer any of the questions that you all may have for any of our city leadership. I know, Shauna, there was a question in the chat that somebody said earlier. Do we want to go with that one first?
Sure, we can start there. Tom had asked, and we addressed it briefly, but I think it's worth going back to, what can faith-based organizations do to help with homeless services?
That's a great question. I talked about Plano Overnight Warming Shelter. What I didn't say is that was organized by the faith-based collaborative in the Collin County Homeless Coalition. So there are a lot of local member churches, Christ United Methodist Church, you name a church, St. Vincent de Paul, a lot of our Catholic faith-based church communities here in town are members. So I can also make sure that I get a contact in the PowerPoint slide that's sent out to contact them, because they're all faith-based, from giving them food because they are housing homeless overnight, to participating in that way. And then I also, what I did mention is that you can always connect with us here at the city in neighborhood services, because we always need care packages. But I can also send you a list of shelters that provide, and groups that provide services to nonprofits that the city actually funds. And we don't fund anyone, our funding is limited. We're government. But they always can need help. And so that would at least assure you that if we're giving the money, we've looked at their finances, we know it's a well-run organization, and we can link you to that. So I can also give that information out as well to our communications community outreach department, so that they can send that out. So I'll add the PALS link or PALS information, and I'll add a list of organizations that we fund and the website, so you all can go on and look. I think that's the best way to do it. And if you are, I know I said don't provide. Let's say don't provide money to anyone. If you just have to give something to one individual, go buy them something. Ask them what they want to eat. Number one, because just because you're homeless does not mean that you don't know what you want to eat. And you may not want a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. You might actually want something hot, because how many of us are adults? We still like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. So I'm going to say, if you're going to do that, please ask them if you feel safe to encounter a homeless, or if maybe you're walking in the park and you see a homeless person or someone you think is homeless and you feel comfortable talking to them, or they have approached you and you feel safe. That's it. But other than that, those other 2 options are wonderful options. PALS is always looking for faith-based partners. I know that for a fact. I work closely with Rich Homer, who works with Salvation to run that. He's always looking for volunteers, especially right now in the midst of COVID. Thank you.
Hello, Sean. I think one of the things that our faith-based could also do is join the Collin County Homeless Coalition. I think, they have monthly meetings where they talk about things we can do as a community, not just even in Plano, but across the county to address this homeless issue. And at least they can be aware of different initiatives that have come up. I also want to, just do a shout out, though. Last year during the Snowmageddon, our church has really stepped up to help, in particular Grace Outreach, help open up a West Side warming station that was really very helpful for us when we really had to get people off the street. So there are some things that our faith-based community can do.
Can I add one more? So good morning, everybody. Lori Schwartz. The other thing I wanted to mention is Jeanette had said the point in time count. We still need volunteers for that right now, and that is coming up next month. So if someone wants to immediately get involved with doing some homeless outreach, this would be a great way to pull together a community group or a small Sunday school class to do this together for that one night as a point in time count.
I see that Mr. Smith has his hand raised.
Yes, related question. Is there an initiative by the city or anybody in the city to provide an emergency shelter open to the general public? Yeah, much like Offbeat or some of them that we have in our neighboring cities.
So, Mr. Smith, we have been working. Our neighborhood services group, Lori and Shanette, have brought several options to City Council that we have briefly discussed. We still have some more research and homework to do to bring back to City Council as far as what options look like for the community, and it's varying degrees. It's everything from city owning to somebody else operating. There's a bunch of different options in there that we've presented to council, and there's not a singular direction that's been decided on at this point, but we have started the conversation. We do anticipate coming back with some additional level of detail for that discussion, but we don't have a single direction that's been decided on quite yet. So I would say that keep staying tuned in to the conversation, and we should be back with more with City Council here in the not too distant future.
Thank you.
Kathy has a question.
Yes, thank you. So my question is about the counting event that you're going to have. If one can just an individual sign up, so if I put that information out to our community and we didn't want to sign up as a group, can an individual sign up to help? And then two, if you could give me just a little bit of an expectation of what they would be doing that evening, that would probably be helpful so that if I had a question come in, I could direct them.
Great. That's a great question. Thank you for that. So yes, individuals can sign up, and we would more than likely put an individual maybe on a sign-in table, even though I think maybe those slots, some of them are taken. I say I put an individual on a sign-in table because we are encouraging group sign-up with people that you know, because we do have to remember that it's COVID time. And because we are in kind of the COVID era right now, we don't want to place people that maybe do not know each other together in cars or in groups. We would like groups to sign up because they ideally would kind of be familiar with each other. Maybe they've even been around each other enough so that they can go and work. And when you come out, so what happens is our volunteers start coming to City Hall around 7:15. We will give you all, this year there's a video presentation that our community in Collin County and Dallas County will be sharing, which our mayor is speaking on that presentation. We'll share that. It's a small presentation. Then we do an in-person presentation with our police department. They have an awesome police officer that does a presentation every year that we've done it. And he actually provides the safety aspects of going out. Each group goes out with a police officer. So no one is by themselves, but in that safety training is talking about distance, and they go through everything from where to go. They'll tell you where to go. So you're assigned, when you sign up, you're signing up in groups. If you have an individual, you can send them directly to I'll put my contact information in there. You can send them to neighborhood services, even have them call us, and we can get them something to do indoors instead of necessarily putting them in the group, because some groups are actually going to have to drive their cars to locations. But we actually, using our GIS team here in Plano, we carve up the city, for lack of a better word, and each police officer goes out with that homeless group, with that volunteer group, to look and see if we can come in contact with homeless individuals at night. We have care packages that we provide them. I know there's a question in the chat about care packages. We would prefer that they are packaged instead of individual items. But if you call neighborhood services, we'll talk to you more about kind of why we have that. But anyhow, we have pre-packaged care packages that each homeless volunteer group for that homeless count goes out with our police for that night. We leave City Hall by no later than 9 o'clock, sometimes around 8:30, and you come back by midnight. There is an online app that we use that the entire Dallas County and Collin County uses that night that has pre-approved questions by all of our cities as to what you will actually ask homeless individuals. And so we go through it, the police have it, and we answer those questions. You answer the questions that you provide the answers to the questions in your app, and the app is accessible by your phone. And then you come back. So it's a long night, but it's a good night. So that's kind of what happens on the night of the homeless census. We also have hotspots. Hotspots are places where there are nonprofits here in town that said we've opened up our doors so that if a homeless person wants to come in, we can see them there. We don't send volunteers to our hotspots. A good example is on the night of our homeless account, we will, the Assistance Center has opened up their doors to allow for street side showers, which is another nonprofit, to allow showers for our homeless on that night. They already do this during the week, one day during the week, but on that night specifically, they'll be available. So there's a lot of things that goes on, but for our volunteers that are going, either you're signing in people at night or you're going out in your group with a police officer to a designated area and looking to see if you can encounter our homeless residents.
I have two follow-ups then on that. So what size group, if we were asking people to sign up in a group, what size would you want them to be?
We're asking for no more than 4, 5 at most, but no more than 4. Our sign-up genius actually has spaces on there where you can see that, because we don't want to scare anybody. You know, when you walk up to a homeless individual or anybody in a big group and you don't know them, sometimes you can be startled. So we are asking for groups not to exceed 4 to 5 people. And we will be providing N95 masks to all of our volunteers that show up that night, just to make sure that everyone stays as safe as possible.
And then I have one other question. So are you specifically, like I saw in your presentation, you had like sheltered and unsheltered. So is this specifically looking for the unsheltered homeless?
You got it. Yes, ma'am, it is. We are looking for the unsheltered.
So for your sheltered, how do you identify those people that are sheltered in?
We have a separate survey actually that our sheltered, that our nonprofits that are providing shelter actually use. So it's the same. They will be using the same survey that our other shelters will be using in Dallas County and Collin County. So that's something separate. They get the data, and I say survey, it's really data. They will provide that data to Metro Dallas Homeless Alliance, our partner that I mentioned in the presentation, and that's how that sheltered population is accounted for.
So it's identified shelters. It doesn't include homeless who might be living in motels or things like that. Is that correct?
So when you talk about motels, that's interesting. It will include homeless in hotels that they didn't pay for themselves. So that means nonprofits that are paying for people to stay in hotels have a form that they can fill out. But what the federal government says is if you are staying in a hotel that you paid for by yourself, you are not homeless.
But you could be in a situation where you stay in a motel one night and another night you're on a couch and another night you're under a bridge.
You're right.
You're
so,
absolutely right.
our federal government, for the purposes of how we do our point in time count, it's very specific. And so if one night, if on that Thursday that we count, if you have paid for your hotel, we are not allowed to count you as homeless. I know that sounds a little interesting, for lack of a better word, but that's how we have to do it. The federal government just recently, you mentioned staying on someone's couch. If that's the case, if you know somebody, we've just been able to start counting people that are couch surfers. That's what we say. You're sleeping on somebody's couch. If that happens, somebody can call our department, and we definitely will be able to get in contact with them so that we can get their information and have a survey done for them.
Yes, ma'am, you are right. There are homeless who can sleep in a hotel some nights, but if it's really cold and we open up the warming station, they may not want to do that. Stay in a shelter. They may go get a hotel room, because some of our homeless, they receive some type of check or government check or disability or something, but it's not nearly enough to pay for rent. So they have some money in their pocket, but not nearly enough to provide shelter. But if it's 1 or 2 nights, yeah, they can go to one of our lower cost hotels and get a room if they need to, if they don't want to stay in a shelter, because some homeless don't want to do that.
So you would suspect that number is probably underrepresented, that 200 or something.
That is
population.
The way the government count homeless, there's no question that number is going to be less.
Okay. Thank you.
We have a question in the chat. One of our neighborhoods needs a contractor that's qualified to do gabion wall repair. Are there any staff recommendations on finding gabion wall contractors? Jack, I don't know.
I'm out here. Jack Carr, Deputy City Manager over the Development Services team. Tom, I'll reach out to you individually and have a discussion about suggested contractors. I think we have your contact information. I'll just reach out individually.
All right. Are there any other questions? Oh, I see one new one has just popped in. Okay, Tom's response. We don't typically do this with outside questions, but I did see that there is a question for Keisha from those watching the live stream, if there are organizations and grants available for landscaping at homes specifically. So maybe you could address that for us.
Okay. Unfortunately, the grants that we have are all for neighborhood groups. However, we do in our department have a tool lending trailer. And so if there's a group that wants to get together and landscape, we have the tools to be able to help them do that. And that's for an individual or even a neighborhood group could get the trailer.
Keisha, if someone did the Great Update rebate, could some of those things count towards that and overhaul of their landscaping?
Jeanette's shaking her head, yes. Yeah. For GERD, yes.
We have a couple of more questions that have popped into the chat. I know we're almost up against the hour. Perhaps we can take maybe we can take those offline, and we'll follow up from our neighborhood services division. So Shanette, both of those questions that were just asked deal with community services, so we'll pass those on to you along with contact information for residents. Mayor Pro Tem, I think we're out of time.
Wonderful. Well, we thank everyone for attending. Thank you for taking time out of your day to be with us today. And you will receive a follow-up email with links to the presentations and resources related to this morning's topics. And again, we appreciate all that you're doing to garner more engagement in your neighborhoods and to work hard to help keep our community strong. So we appreciate all of you, and we hope you have a wonderful day and a great weekend. Thank you.
Goodbye.